In
Yo, what's up guys, it's Dolphic here. I'm finally back. Today, I'm gonna be going through and explaining the second part of my UUG Iceberg. An iceberg is basically something that shares uncommon info about a certain topic, with our topic being UUG. In case you didn't know, UUG stands for Untitled UTMM Game, which is an RPG game on Roblox. If you haven't already, I highly recommend watching the first part of my iceberg. Everything I say may not be 100% accurate, so again, take some things I say with a grain of salt. Now, it's time for you to get some popcorn and please enjoy the video. This is probably the most common topic in this layer of the iceberg. FSB refers to the final soul blade, the weapon you can obtain by completing 3 secret steps with incomplete soul blade. You can do these in any order, but leaving or disconnecting will reset your progress. You have unlimited attempts and dying is fine, though I'm not sure if you're allowed to unequip the incomplete soul blade. One of the steps consists of killing 1000 enemies with ISB. Another step consists of killing Q-Buster with ISB. The last and most secretive step consists of killing a boss that requires 15 to 20 resets. What we can say is that the boss is not Ugly Snen's Requiem, Oh God, the Boss Gauntlet, or Jandy. This boss is not allowed to be leaked and can lead to consequences. However, this information is very easy to leak, so it's hard to catch people leaking it if they're not blatantly stating it. Here's another common one. NMM stands for No Mercy Madness, one of ZB's old games. There's also an NMMR, which stands for No Mercy Madness Resurrection. This may have also been the core system test game shown in the first part of the iceberg. Perhaps it wasn't for UAG and rather for NMMR. I'm not sure whether or not UAG or quote-unquote UUG2 is cancelled. The footage you're seeing is gameplay of both of the games. This refers to the accidental deletion of the old original official UG Discord server. It was deleted on accident by ZB due to some issues with Discord. A new server was created and Miles, one of ZB's friends, is the temporary owner of it. I will link it in the description below. Fool's Gold was a weapon obtainable by beating waves 35 to 45 in the old arena. You were supposed to get it by beating wave 60, but the old arena was pretty glitchy and when you ended your waves, it would go a lot higher than normal. Fool's Gold was originally called Ace of Gold, which is the current wave 60 reward, but they are now 2 separate items. The old Ace of Gold was made into Fool's Gold because of the wave glitches. Today, it acts the same as Ace of Gold minus all of its damage. ZB's hiatus is pretty well known, but not many people know the information regarding it and when he's coming back. To start off, he took a break from everything due to real life stuff and also probably due to stress. Right now, he's actually working on the final update for UUG from time to time. This update will mark the end for UUG and also supposedly bring back every past event to stay. It's good to see ZB doing better now. This dates back to the original UUG Discord server and I don't have the screenshots of it, but ZB had an idea for an entity to give out hints of secret bosses and their whereabouts. This was most likely to help new players progress and make the game less intimidating. This idea has most likely since been scrapped. UUG copies refers to two things, one being actual copies of the game and the other being clickbait copies. Regarding the first one, people have obtained copies of the entire game through exploiting, though they won't have any of the scripts. Some exploiters tried to use this against CB by threatening to leak stuff. From what I can remember, I don't think that worked. I'm pretty sure exploiters can do the same with other games too. UUG isn't the only game affected by this. Regarding the second one, if you search Untitled UTMM game, you'll find many clickbait copies of the game. Upon joining these, you'll usually be met with a loading assets screen that never loads and a picture of UUG. If you look closely, the game is actually just a base plate, so there's basically nothing in them. Back in the day, there was a rumored arsenal of Bone Chop. According to MJ, it was a very OP weapon and was sold at a presumably very high price. MJ stated that the shop was in El Huevo, but you needed to activate something first. To this day, nobody has found the shop or even how to activate the shop itself. You wanna know why? As confirmed by ZB themselves, this was actually a troll. This mystery is now put to rest. The Ancient One's eye kinda looks like Pause, right? Well, if you look closely, they actually have an HP bar and a name. I named this topic Pause too because they look like Pause and also have an absurd amount of HP. A shadow of Pause can actually be seen in the fight too. Anyway, their name actually connects with the types of attacks they're using. If they're using Night Soul for example, they'll be using Night Soul's abilities. However, you may notice their names are a bit altered since what would be Night Soul would be called WoW Soul. First, I thought this was because they were the old names for the souls. However, there's also Bruh Soul, which isn't a soul in the game. It basically uses knife attacks and we can connect that to Bruh Kingpin. I theorize that each zone in the lobby has a species that uses their own types of soul. For example, the Bruh zone would be the Bruh Soul, and the WoW zone would be the WoW Soul. The other souls the Ancient One uses are the Dummy Soul, Ugly Soul, Card Soul, and Cultist Soul. 6 different souls, 6 different zones. So basically, each species has their own types of souls. Before you ask, the HP and souls in both of the Ancient Ones are the same. Also, here's another fun fact. If you look into their actual eye, they have a strange name. They're question mark boxes, an emoji/symbol that acts as a placeholder for emojis that don't exist on your device. I can actually decode what the name says though. The boxes just so happen to line up in a way that spells out the Ancient One. So, either the question mark boxes were an accident or they're there for mystery. That's all for this topic. UWG stands for Untitled Weird Game and is a game created by Monster Mania fan, Epic Mania Man on Discord, inspired by UUG. It even has references to it. It began because UUG was in a dead state and still is, and it started off as a small project and was advertised in the old UUG Discord server. However, Monster didn't have any experience in scripting, so they eventually asked ZB for help. From this point on, the game would almost get a collab with UUG, but it ultimately failed. Present day, UWG became semi-popular and stands at just shy of 8,000 visits. UWGR, which stands for Untitled Weird Game Reborn, started being developed in early August and is still being worked on to this day. Now let's talk about the drama surrounding the game. To some people, the game would seem to be pay to win and it also had a lot of bugs, mainly one where you could reap the benefits of the game passes for free by glitching into them. The game passes weren't and still aren't very protected. The head of SNES used to have a seemingly out of place description compared to the one we know today. Believe it or not, it used to actually say holy shit with no censorship at all whatsoever. At first, I didn't believe it, but I was eventually proven wrong. This was an accident on ZB's part, and it was fixed a few days or so after the 2 million event was released. Even so, it was pretty funny to see it unfold in the OG UUG Discord server. There's actually a secret NPC in the Ugly Realm. No, I'm not talking about the egg hot dog shop. I'm talking about this guy. We can actually talk to them, but their name will show up as 3 question marks. Nobody knows who they actually are. Perhaps their name is Servant of the Overlord, which we can see on the boss chart, but I also highly doubt that. If you didn't know, you can see Servant of the Overlord on the boss chart, but it actually doesn't exist in the game at the moment. This is most likely a future boss. Same with US Test, except this was a test battle and the test place used to test out the test final boss of SNES Rush to test it for bugs and whatnot for testers. Anyway, they have a semi-hostile tone when they talk to us and they tell us to come back when we've passed his test. This probably refers to the Watcher. We'll probably get to do something with them once the final update releases. Other than that, we don't know much else about their identity. Okay, I did some more digging and it turns out that this NPC is actually Servant of the Overlord. If you look very closely into this pillar, you can actually see their battle door. It's really hard to see, so I might have some things wrong. It says, Servant of the Overlord, love 150 plus, 1 true resets, rewards 420 million, 20 million base, gold, and 0 XP. I have no doubts it'll definitely require a true reset, but love 150? I'm not too sure about that. That could either be a placeholder, or perhaps we'll actually be able to go past love 100 with the introduction of true resets. Well, what can I say? MJ eats nuts.
Oh my god!
In the old UUG Discord server, you were supposedly able to acquire a special role if you explained what his eyes were. It may have also been awarded to someone who made the best theory for it. Nothing ended up happening with this, and the quote-unquote special role probably never existed and won't ever exist. There's not much to say about this one. At some point, group bonuses were planned for the game but never made it in because ZB forgot about it. The UTAE drama was a pretty devastating event. This took place sometime after the Undertale Awakened era collab transpired. Let me give you some important background information before I continue. If you didn't know, UUG's second collab event was a collaboration with UTAE a while back. In UUG, the things that were added from UTAE were Funny Man, a boss, Corrupt Gun, its weapon drop, Soul Scythe, Hexonium, the owner of UTAE's custom weapon, and finally a portal to UTAE. In UTAE, the things that were added from UUG were Snens, a boss, Snen Soul, a soul whose fragments drop from Snens, Awakening, a boss, Awakened Head, its armor drop, Spancer, a pet you'd get for being in the UUG group, Spancer Eye, a weapon skin for Sans Eye, a UUG credits board that could take you there, and, finally, Spancer Blade, ZB, the owner of UUG's custom weapon. Now for the drama. This is going to be a little brief and I will not delve deep into it. Basically, I believe it started with arguments happening in both the UUG and UTAE Discord servers concerning both of the games. There was a lot of trash talking. Then there was some and some other things. After all this, ZB and Hexonium eventually came to a sort of agreement and both games and communities are no longer involved with each other. As a result of this drama, the Snens and Awakening fights and UUG board were removed from UTAE and the Funny Man boss and the UTAE portal were removed from UUG. The Soul Scythe also never ended up being given to Haxo and UUG. This was the only event in the game that ended due to drama. Again, like the UWG drama, it's mostly died off as of now, but both communities still prefer not to get involved with each other at all. In the old UUG Discord server, ZB hosted a poll on what the next update should be. There were 3 choices, the first being new mainline content, the second being Awakening Shop or some sort of new Trolls related content, and the third being Spammed and Stuff. Spammed and Stuff won, and we can see that in game today. The mainline content probably hasn't been scrapped, though we can't say the same with the other option. We may never see this Trolls type stuff in game. Many people know about Clock, but not what U/N/J/F is. UNJF stands for Unified National Fine Threads with Controlled Root Radius and Increased Minor Diameter. I don't know what this means, but ZB basically used this to make the clock accurate to real-life proportions. You can find more information on the TorqueBalt website. When Pingman first released, Pingblade was called something else. It was actually called Dummy Blade the Immortal, a pre-existing weapon. You would be able to see 2 dummy blades of Immortal in your inventory, one being the real dummy blade and the other being the ping blade. This was a visual glitch and an accident on ZB's part. There was a giveaway hosted in the old UUG Discord server. The winner would receive a piece of Next Update's dialogue. I do not have screenshots of this nor the winner, and ZB has forgotten what it was, though he says that it might have been for NMMR. As of now, we may never know what the dialogue was. With the right searches, you'll be able to find R34 or Rule 34 of UUG. Yes, it actually exists. For stupidly and very evidently obvious reasons, I will not be showing this on video. I highly recommend that you do not search for it yourself to save your eyes and your brain. Other than my custom food, I actually have a custom boss. This was going to be a sort of Dolphic boss. However, due to how time consuming it'd be to finish it, ZB really didn't want to make it. It's a joke boss that is very, I guess, bad. I will flash everything about the boss on screen. Brave Axe, Dainty Scarf, Rules Rue, and Amber Card are all items that made it into the game. They are sold by Rules Card. This was because of a suggestions contest hosted by ZB in the old UUG Discord server. However, there was one more suggestion that won that was supposed to make it into the game, but never did. It's called Deck of Cards, a ranged weapon that would shoot out 4 cards in a spread shot fashion similar to certain Spades weapons. These would deal 2500 to 5000 damage each and would shoot faster than the other Spades weapons that would act similar to this. On top of this, each card would have a 3% chance to apply a lifesteal, critical, or burn effect. I believe these effects are pretty self-explanatory. This item didn't end up getting into the game due to motivation constraints, and I'm still not sure whether or not we're going to see it in the future. One of the bosses in the game is from Half-Life 2. This boss is called Get Your Free TVs. This is based off of Half-Life 2's first test level with the same name. You can find more information about it on YouTube and the wiki. The Craft Wars event has existed for a while now. The first sign of its existence, I think, dates all the way back to February. Zombie Launcher, as shown before, and a weapon from the original Craft Wars was also going to be a part of this event. However, the event was scrapped back then as seen in the screenshot due to overambition and lack of motivation. But wait, don't fret, ZB actually told me that the event is being worked on for the final update and may be the last event of the game. It is likely that one of the bosses in this event will be Rex, or Rex, Ruler of the Universe, a very rare and well-known megaboss in the original Craft Wars. This event seems pretty interesting and it's exciting to think about how it'll turn out. Nicolander actually joined the old UUG Discord server one time. They were a bit upset about Rancer, their creation, being used in the game. If I remember correctly, they didn't like the game all that much either, though don't take my word for that. If you don't know who Nicolander is, I'm not even gonna explain it to you because it's so damn obvious who they are. I don't really have an opinion on this, so let's just move on to the next topic. A replacement was planned for Funnyman after it was removed. However, it was decided that there wouldn't be one shortly after, most likely due to the drama. This replacement was planned to be based on a new avatar of the person Cultist Mouse is based off of. It would have been pretty interesting to see how the replacement of the boss turned out. There was an image of a rock Plants vs Zombies edit posted in the old UG Discord server. I don't have the original image of it, so here's a forged version. I forgot who posted it, though it was probably either Nova or ZB. This led to rumors of a PvZ event being in the works. In spite of that, ZB debunked this, saying it was just a shitpost. This is another example of scrapped content. A sneak peek of a sort of red temple was posted in the old UG Discord server. ZB forgot what it was, though they think it might have been something ugly related or the original arena for God himself. The admin bow was an admin weapon that was accidentally released to the public for a few minutes. It was available in the shop for 25,000 gold, which is the same as bow and arrow. It was shortly removed after the incident, and because some lucky players were able to obtain it, the damage was set to 0. Most people know waves 1 to 60 in the arena. However, what's past wave 60 has remained relatively unknown for a while. Well, according to ZB, it's basically waves 55 to 60 repeated. Despite this, due to poor programming, this wasn't how it was intended. Super bosses are only supposed to spawn on wave 53, 55, 58, and 60. Then it'd be 63, 65, 68, and 70, and so on. So basically, the waves past wave 60 are nothing new other than increased HP and probably damage. We're also going to be seeing a new formula for the HP of the enemies in the final update. This will make it a lot easier to complete waves 1 to 60. For example, Awakening would have 111,172,000 HP at wave 100 and 27,627,708,000 HP at wave 1000. Other than that, this topic isn't very interesting. The Watcher is actually Void Space. When I asked ZB if we can have a hard mode Space Void, he replied saying, "You mean the Watcher?" Sure, there was a troll emoji, but Void Space does seem like one of those mysterious bosses. However, there's even more definitive proof. There existed a time where if you stared long enough at the UUG Discord server logo, it would change to this. Upon close observation, that is quite literally Void Space. In testing hints are test place exclusive hints that apply to bosses that are in testing. For example, before Cube Buster was released, you could test out the boss in the test place and it'd have the in testing hint above its battle door. What I mean by hints is they're basically the indicators that are usually above certain battle doors to fights. For example, the Arena, Guardian, XP Grind, Second Round Incident, the 10k Arena, and the 1M Dungeon all have hints. Examples include Raid, Event, Survival, Endless, Game Pass, Dungeon, and the one in question in testing. The only other test place exclusive hint I know of is Off Sale, which indicates a fight that requires a no longer obtainable Game Pass. Technically, it is a test place exclusive hint, but it'll be released in the main game in the future. UUAZYG 10XYD refers to the Enigmatic YouTube video posted on January 13, 2022 by the popular UUG YouTuber by the name of Dolphic. I'm not too sure whether or not it relates to UUG itself, though I'm gonna assume it doesn't. Now let's get to the analysis. The video starts off with Dolphic indirectly showing us their loadout, Dummy Blade the Immortal, Spancer's Blessing, and True Dummy Soul. They also appear to be using some shaders. Next, they fight God's Nens. Around 20 seconds in, the clip is slowed and the audio seems to be a little distorted. "35 seconds in, the pitch of the audio is lowered for a bit. At around 46 seconds in, the pitch is raised for a bit. Now here's where things start to get weird. 50 seconds in, the screen suddenly goes black. Shortly after, we are met with pretty distorted video and audio, but we can still tell that this is the God's Nens fight. "25 seconds after the screen went black, we can hear a sort of voice. It's hard to make out what it said, but some examples of what it could have said are hole, hell, help, and hello. 3 seconds after this, the voice speaks once again. It's hard to hear, but I believe it said either where are you or where am I. "8 seconds after, the voice says something like Ari. I don't really know. By this point, the video is a lot more distorted than before. In the last seconds of the video, the voice seems to be trying to say something but is then cut off as the video abruptly comes to an end. Now, what could all this mean? To be honest, I haven't a clue. If you take a look at the description of the video, it says, "Hello, I am Dolphic. Here is my video of a game called UUG. I could be overthinking this, but even though it seems normal, it just seems too normal of a description compared to the descriptions of their other videos. It's just so bland. The comments don't help much either. They're all just as confused as to what this is. Now, the one piece of information that is hiding in plain sight is the title itself, UUAZYG10XYD. To me, this looks like a link of some sort. I tried Mediafire and YouTube but had no luck. I tried decoding it using base 64 and base 32 and also had no luck. It's so obvious that this title means something, yet it's so hard to find what. Well, I'm just gonna end it off here. It seems to me that this is a puzzle or ARG of some sort. If you'd like, you may post your thoughts and findings in the comments. In March during the 25k event, Ronald's soul was in Spancer Shrine shop for a few minutes before I notified ZB about it. It was removed shortly after that. This theory states that there exists a true Nova emblem and certain enemies use fragments of this emblem to become stronger. Take the Nova Lords and Nova Cultists for example. They all have this sort of diamond-shaped emblem in their chest. Because there's multiple of them, that's why I believe these are fragments of the true Nova emblem. Now, why are Nova Cultists called cultists? Well, because of their names, I think it's safe to assume that they're in a cult. They literally reside in a place called Ugly Cult Hideout. But then why are they affiliated with Ugly? I'm not too sure, but perhaps they're allies. They could also just be using that as a hideout without the Ugly species knowing. Now, because they're a cult, they must all share a common goal. Perhaps they're trying to summon Nova themselves, or perhaps they're trying to get a hold of the true Nova emblem. The latter may not be true though, since they already have a fragment of its power somehow. Perhaps they want world domination. Okay, yeah, this theory is kinda ridiculous. Let's just move on. This is a theory created by me that states there actually is no lore. Now hear me out, I know this is highly unlikely as ZB has basically already confirmed there is lore. However, my question is how the hell would shit like El Huevo, Tailsdoll, Jandy, Majin Sonic, Battle Cats, etc. tie in with the lore? You could argue that they don't tie in with the lore and only some entities do. However, this would raise yet another question. What does correlate with the lore? Do events correlate with the lore? Some events? All events? No events? Do secret bosses correlate with the lore? Jandy? Hippo? Party host? Trolge? Does Undertale correlate with the lore? Does Craft Wars correlate with the lore? Does Airanex correlate with the lore? Does my dick correlate with the lore? You can see where I'm going with this, but I'm just gonna end it off here. Everyone knows Angry Shop. They serve as a shop owner who sells us items. But why are they angry? If you look at their face, it isn't angry at all either. They're smiling, which is also true with Angry Quest and Shop Fury. Now I think they're related to anger since they all have something related to anger in their name. Angry Shops being angry, Angry Quests also being angry, and Shop Furies being fury. Are they their own species? Are they a family? Are they brothers? Now I'm just gonna assume that they are related to each other. So all three of them are affiliated with anger, yet they have no visible anger at all whatsoever. There are some theories I have regarding this. 1. They have been fixed in time by a supreme being and are doomed to stay in place and help the player for all eternity. They could also be angry because they are being used by us, the players. Shop Fury is the only one that has a mustache, which leads me to think they're older than the rest of them, so they could be their dad, which would explain why they are angry. I doubt this one is true, especially because of Angry Shop's boss counterpart. 2. Anger is a power they hold that they can only use if they are very angry. So basically, they got their name from their special ability and don't have to always be angry. I also don't think this one is true. Last but not least, 3. ZB named the shopkeeper Angry Shop because it sounded cool and made counterparts to it because why not? I think this theory is the most likely since it definitely sounds like something ZB would do. I do not know how anger correlates with the lore, but I've just always been wondering why they are affiliated with anger even though they are so clearly visibly happy. This is the mystery of anger. We all know how Jandy is a mix of Jevil, Baldi, and Insanity Sans or Snansanity. They're similar to Jans from the original UTMM, which is a mix of both Jevil and Sans. However, where do they come from? You might say they originated in UUG, but that is actually not the case. Jandy originated in Affirmative Misery, a bullet hell type obby game by ZB. I'll be showing you some footage of me beating Jandy in the game. It's pretty easy. Ronald and Ugly Sans may also have been taken from this game and put into UUG, as we can see that they have their own respective badges like Jandy. This doesn't seem too far of a stretch, as this is the case with Jandy. Everyone knows his eyes' location, but why is his eyes behind Tao? Maybe Tao is the Watcher. It could be a weaker form of them or something. Or Tao could be a minion or servant of the Watcher. Well, one thing is for certain. If his eyes are behind Tao, they must be related in one way or another. Now, I think the Watcher could very well be Tao. You see, once we reach Love 99, we can fight its first form. After defeating them, you gain the ability to reset. After resetting the timeline 4 times, you meet Tao once again, but this time they are stronger than ever. Now, you've basically reached 5 different timelines at this point. No resets, reset 1, reset 2, reset 3, and reset 4. The harder version of Tao requires 4 resets. 4 times 5 equals 20. Thus, we fight an even stronger version of Tao at reset 20. In this version of Tao, it will reveal itself to be none other than the Watcher. Yes, this is basically just a supposition. I'm pretty sure this theory is not true, but it doesn't hurt to believe, right? One of the most common things in this game is Tails Doll. Ever since the joke boss that dropped the fake Tails Blade was released, it's become more prevalent than ever. What I'm going to be explaining goes more into the Tails Shrine, the room you can access by entering the Tails code. Let's go back all the way to the time where I defeated King of Steel without crits. Everything was going fine until about 45 minutes into the video. Watch what happens 45 minutes and 10 seconds in. Yes, you saw that right. The Tails doll from the Tails Shrine somehow appeared in the arena. At first, it seemed I was the only one to notice it. After telling the others, they caught on to it too, proving everyone could see it. So the Tails doll from the Tails Shrine somehow ended up into the King of Steel arena. There are some theories I have regarding this. Theory 1. It was an exploiter. Perhaps somebody was exploiting in the server and brought the Tails doll here for a little reaction. Theory 2. The Tails doll part was unanchored because ZB forgot to anchor it. This one does seem pretty likely because there did exist a time where the part was unanchored. However, if you think about it, that would also mean the part would have to fling so far as to reach the King of Steel arena, force clip in, and stay inside it. That doesn't seem very likely, does it? If you do some scouting outside the arena itself, there are no visible structures and buildings in sight. From this, we can assume the arena is at least thousands of studs from the Tails Shrine. This further decreases the chances of this happening. It just doesn't seem very plausible. Theory 3. Tails is sentient. What I mean by this is they can move around on their own. They have their own mind and can think for themselves. I guess you could say it's like a ghost. This would sort of explain why they appeared in the arena, but it will raise a lot more questions than before. This would be something similar to the Obama bike mystery in Roblox, where there's this bike that moves around on its own as if it's driven by an actual player. You can find more information on this on the Roblox Creepypasta wiki and YouTube. Anyway, what do you think? Is Tails really sentient? Was it an exploiter? Was this just a 1 in 7.5 trillion chance? Leave your thoughts in the chat, or the comments below if you weren't here for the premiere. Let's talk about the mystery of Yo. This concerns the final part of the finale's description where it says, can be powered up further when Yo. This topic does include some confirmations from ZB, unlike some other topics on this iceberg where I deliberately didn't ask him about them. First, let's go through the facts. This was originally placeholder text and ZB was planning to connect some sort of quest line to the finale to power it up. However, this never went anywhere and the text is still there because he forgot to remove it and also willingly chooses not to. Even so, he stated it may mean something in the final update. Here's where the theories come in. Maybe Yo is related to Yobabob since they both have Yo. Maybe Yobabob is the true final boss. Maybe powering up the finale will turn it into Yobabob. Alright, those theories are pretty booty dick but ass penis gritty. Perhaps defeating the Watcher will allow you to power it up, or perhaps ZB will stay true to what they originally planned for it and you'll be able to power it up by completing a new questline. That's about all I can think of at the time of writing this. Yes, most of the iceberg is scripted, except for the pooping on peeing among us Krabby Patty Chicken Butt Burger French Lone Rat Man. Also, sorry if you can hear some ticking sometimes because I have a pretty loud clock. Well, on to the next juicy M&M boneless catastrophic huggy wuggy drug. This is one of the more interesting topics in the iceberg. Personally, it's one of my favorites. As we know, the bruh button weapon which is dropped from the Big B boss plays the widely recognized bruh sound effect.
Bruh.
However, did you know that it actually has a 1 in 25,665 or 0.0039% chance to play a special song instead? Now, I don't have any footage of this, but as confirmed by ZB, it would play a remix of the Nyan Cat song. This remix just replaced all the Nyans with bruhs, hence the name Bruh Cat. This is one of the very few Easter eggs in the game that aren't very well known. This is a mini secret area in the game that is rather obscure. The black box is a name I made up for it because I couldn't really think of anything else. If you use shift lock to look into the wall behind the ugly cult hideout, you'll find that there's actually a small black box that seems to be inaccessible. I tried to look for any false walls but had no luck. Trying on the other side proved futile too. Eventually, I resorted to item clipping. Item clipping is a type of clip glitch in Roblox that allows you to go through walls when you equip and unequip a tangible item in your hotbar extremely quickly, usually done with an auto clicker. It's typically harder to do with R15. First, I lowered my FPS with FPS Unlocker because that typically increases the chances of a successful item clip. Next, I tried item clipping with many different weapons. Some items are easier to item clip with than others, and these are typically the larger ones. Eventually, I ended up finding a weapon that was really easy to item clip with, the Ancient WoW Axe. I managed to get through the wall but not into the box itself, so I tried to do a mid-air item clip. It took me a few attempts, but I was eventually successful. When I got into the box, nothing happened. I tried searching for anything that could be clicked or activated or a possible teleporter but still had no luck. I tried the same process again, except with everything I knew in the game activated. This also ultimately didn't do anything. After this, I basically gave up. I'm still not sure whether or not it does anything, but if I should express my honest opinion, I don't think it does. I don't know why it's there and I have no idea what purpose it serves. If you find anything new about this, please express your thoughts and opinions below. There existed a fan-made theme for Party Spancer. I forgot who it was made by, but my guesses are Seth Rocks 100, a guy who made some music for UUG, and Michael J 8003, a popular music producer in the UTMM community who created music for the original UTMM, most notably the Rancer theme. Anyway, ever since the deletion of the old UUG Discord server, the theme has seemingly disappeared off the internet. Even ZB cannot find it to this day. The YouTube video of this theme has most likely been either unlisted, privated, or deleted. If you have the original link to this theme or have it saved in video or audio format, please contact me on Discord or post a comment down below. Please note that this is different from Party Spancer's current theme, which is an oof remix of Lancer's theme. This is one of the only few lost media for UUG, and as it stands, the theme has been lost to time. As you may know, I have a custom food called Dolphic Annihilated Gamer Liquid, though ZB named it something else because he's bad. While ZB was testing it for stuff, he accidentally released it to the public. You could have bought it in the Rancer Shrine most likely for the same cost and requirements as Rancer Soda. This was quickly found by Miles and he's the only known person to have obtained it through this way. It's likely that he notified ZB about it right after since the bug was fixed shortly after. My guess as to why this happened is that ZB duplicated the Rancid Soda and edited it to become the custom, but he forgot to put it off sale. Anyway, instead of removing it from people's inventories, he made a new one, which is the one I currently have. Regarding the old one, he basically pulled a fool's gold and made it provide no benefits. I suspect he didn't just remove the old one from people's inventories, since doing that can be a pain in the ass and it can also softlock those affected. I know this from experience. As it stands, the old food is one of, if not the rarest item that could have been obtained by regular players.
No, this does not refer to the secret final boss of the Christmas event, Christmas ZB, but instead a new ZB boss that ZB is rumoured to be adding to the game. We don't know much about it at the moment, as very little information has been given to us, but one potential idea on what the boss may be comes from two models ZB has in his inventory, one being labelled the Head of ZB, and the other a work in progress of an Omega ZB. Dolphic wanted me to tell you I am ZB. He also said something about something being hard.
As you know, there's a trapdoor that spawns every 30 minutes. This is the partygoer fight you need to beat to get the party key. However, I've seen quite a bit of people mention that they couldn't find it even after checking all 3 locations. This is probably nothing serious, as it was most likely because they either didn't check properly or checked too late. However, the trapdoor might not spawn exactly every 30 minutes. I haven't tested it, but after it has spawned once, it might spawn 30 minutes after it despawned, not after the server timer hits 1 hour or so. If this is true, the person looking for it might have checked too early. Another possible explanation is the trapdoor bugged out somehow and just didn't spawn. This is also a reasonable explanation. The last explanation is that there's actually a 4th trapdoor location we don't know about. Now, this is more of a theory and shouldn't be taken too seriously, as because of the aforementioned reasons, this is most likely not the case. Who knows, maybe there really is a 4th trapdoor location. When I asked ZB if there are 3 trapdoor locations, he said, I think. It wasn't really a definite answer. Yes, I know I'm basically nitpicking at this point. I would ask him to check if there really are only 3, but knowing him, he'd probably laze out unless I give him something in return. What do you think? The true oldest lobby of UUG only contains Snens. That's it. It was just fight Snens. Well, according to MJ that is. According to ZB, Dummy Swarm and King Dummy also existed at the time, but who cares about them? The only footage of Dust Snens during the actual 3K event that I could find was this screenshot right here taken by Ultra Beast Shin. I do not know their Discord, and this was sent in the old UUG Discord server, so you cannot find it anymore unless you have it saved. This might be one of the oldest, if not the oldest, footage of the game. According to Turner, there existed a Snen shop that replaced Angry Shop during the 1K event. Apparently, he also sold the 1K Visit Soul for 3 or 5 fragments. However, Turner most likely remembered wrong since ZB states otherwise. According to ZB, Snen Shop didn't replace Angry Shop and it was just a secret shop. You were able to get to it from Hard Snens' old location by clicking a button located here. This is a picture of the shop and it didn't sell the 1K Visit Soul. It sold the Arsenal of Bones for 0 gold, MJ's custom item. ZB says he only knows like 2 people who found it, but maybe there were others. Who knows? Perhaps there exist normal players who own the actual Arsenal of Bones to this day. God damn, This is the biggest topic on the iceberg. This topic contains several subtopics, some of which may even be able to stand as their own independent topic. Nevertheless, these subtopics all relate to the main topic, Cheeseverse. Cheeseverse, often shortened into CV by ZB and his friends, is a quote-unquote funny little story ZB and his friends made up for fun. It's like a sort of roleplay with lore. Most things in Cheeseverse are related to UUG in some way, be it as something directly taken from Cheeseverse or as something that has taken inspiration from Cheeseverse. Some examples of things directly taken from Cheeseverse are King Cheese, Dark God Cheese, and the WoW Kingdom. One example of a character that took inspiration from Cheeseverse is Void Space, a remake of a character from there. I will now be going over the first subtopic, lore relevancy. I kind of already briefly went over this, but let me explain again. Because UUG is heavily inspired by Cheeseverse, most of the stuff in Cheeseverse is related to UUG's lore in some way. Do note that not everything in Cheeseverse is canon to UUG. They are not the same thing. One more thing to note is that the lore is separate from the actual in-game content. This is a no-brainer, but some if not most parts of the lore are and will not be present in the actual game itself. Let us continue. To start off, here's a bit of context. MJ or ZB invited me to a Discord server containing some of Cheeseverse's lore. I'm not gonna invite people to it for obvious reasons, but most of the information I'm talking about will be from there. Now, the subtopic is called Immortal Warden, but I only called it that to make it confusing as to what it is. This actually refers to the Colossus, an immortal being who guards the Nova emblem kept inside a temple. This temple also contains many other artifacts. Speaking of artifacts, this leads us to the next subtopic. Artifacts refer to objects that provide whoever wields them with great, overwhelming power. Some examples of these are the Nova emblem, CHEZ, and the WoW emblem. Nova emblem multiplies the user's power by a very large amount. CHEZ is not canon to UUG but rather Cheeseverse, and both MJ and ZB forgot what it stands for. I'll just call it Chez. According to MJ, it's like the Nova emblem but cheese. WoW emblem is also similar to the Nova emblem since it just mimics it. That's all ZB provided to me, but there could be other artifacts or emblems specific to specific zones. There could be an ugly emblem or a spade emblem or even a rancer emblem, though I highly doubt the latter. There was originally a plan for there to be certain prerequisites before you could fight the Watcher. These prerequisites would be known as the Guardians. There would have been a total of 3 Guardians, Oblivion, Massacre, and the Generals. Not much is known about Oblivion other than the fact that they're a space god. Massacre is of the same species as Tau, and their only desire is to see the world burn. Now for the most confusing one, the Generals. The Generals actually consists of 3 different Generals, General Icy, General Brown, and General Jungle. Each of them have a crystal as their core, or heart. There's the Speed Crystal, the Power Crystal, and the Defensive Crystal. I'm not sure which general has which. I'm also not sure what the generals actually do, but I'm guessing General Icy would be able to manipulate ice, General Brown would be able to manipulate earth, and General Jungle would be able to manipulate poison. This plan has since been scrapped due to motivation constraints. Canonically, the strongest entity is MJ4. Also, when I say canon, I usually mean canon to UUG unless specified otherwise. Technically, Ultra J is stronger than MJ4, but they're not canon. Well, what is MJ4? Huh? There's multiple MJs? I'll be answering these questions in the next subtopic. Before I get started, there will be an indicator on screen in the top left corner for whether I'm talking about Cheeseverse's lore or UUG's lore to make things less confusing. This Watcher Eye will be shown to indicate I'm talking about UUG's lore, and this Mystic Cheese will be shown to indicate I'm talking about Cheeseverse's lore. It's a bit hard to understand, but in Cheeseverse lore, there are multiple different MJs. Each of them are a separate, unique entity and are not the same person. Now it's time to delve into the Cheeseverse lore in the Discord server I was talking about. First off, we have the very first MJ, the Ultra J. He was a pacifist and ZB created him along with other elder gods. He eventually created his first MJ, MJ0. He was a failure and was very evil. All he desired was power and he hated the world. He eventually went into hiding up until 3 other MJs were created. The second MJ the Ultra J created was MJ Eats Cheese, the one we know today. He spent most of his time playing with Old Granny Jesus, or OGJ. Then he went on a Doctor Strange training arc. The thing to note here is the original MJ is basically just MJ, the Discord user. Anyway, OGJ is a half god, half MJ, and he's basically the guiding light for the MJs. He is immortal. MJ2 was a preventer, this word is in the MJ dictionary, who has a proficiency in daggers and knives. MJ3 was a defender, but he's quite stupid. This is around the time MJ0 came out of hiding. He learned he was replaced, so his only new desire was to cause the Ultra J pain, which he did by attacking all 3 MJs, almost killing them. Before he was able to finish the job, MJ4 was created. He is one of the strongest entities in the mythosphere, second only to the Ultra J. Anyway, MJ4's power is almost infinite and it's nearly impossible to kill him. He sent MJ0 to a void outside of reality that is impossible to escape. There's a lot more lore to this, but that's all I'm gonna tell you because there's way too much. I'll show you the rest of the lore on screen right now. If you'd like to read it, just pause. The other MJs are Workfell MJ, MJ 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, MJ Ugly Sands, RPG MJ, which is just regular MJ, Sun King MJ, Moon Tyrant MJ, DJ, and probably some others. Also, DJ is a fusion between MJ and Dolphic, which was made canon pretty recently. Anyway, there's one MJ that I've excluded and will now talk about as it's pretty important. Void J had an unrivaled proficiency in void magic. He was a hero but didn't enjoy being one. He knew he was a lot more intelligent than all of the MJs combined. He felt ashamed to be an MJ and soon left the MJs for adventure. However, this would not end well. Eventually, he would begin to hate all the MJs. He wasn't an MJ anymore. He was V-Termina. His only goal was to wreak havoc upon the mythosphere and, more importantly, exterminate the MJs. There's more to this, but I'm gonna have to stop there. V-Termina is important because he was the MJ that got replaced by Adrite Dummy in UUG lore and the game itself. Moon Tyrant MJ and V-Termina also have relations to the Watcher, and Mr. Moon also does by proxy. Anyway, to summarize everything and for additional information, most MJs were created by the Ultra J, most were created to defend against certain crimes, all MJs loved cheese, Void J loved it too until he became V-Termina. The mythosphere is the multiverse and some universes in it are the Cheeseverse, Icyverse, and Mouseverse. MJ Eats Nuts is MJ Eats Cheese except he loves to eat nuts instead of cheese. And Workspace is a fictional place in the mythosphere that represents Workspace Studios, which as we know eventually led to UUG's creation. That's all I have to say. Before I end this topic, there's one more entity I'd like to talk about. It's Husk. They are a giant head that causes space-time distortions. They're not necessarily canon to UUG, but they're not necessarily not canon either. It's in a state of limbo between being canon and non-canon until observed, and it isn't in UUG, so it cannot be observed yet. Test Quest was a quest used to test the functionality of quests. That's all. I made some fake dummy lore in my old Discord server a while back, but what about the real dummy lore? Well, Dummy's big brother is actually Final Revenge from the 1.5 million event. Dummy King is the king of most dummies. Adrite Dummy is just a normal dummy but with an Adrite bowler. Metal dummies are not real dummies. They are artificially created by Super Metal Dummy, and Super Metal Dummy is a real dummy. That's about as far as we're gonna go from the lore ZB provided to me. Regarding Super Metal Dummy being a real dummy, perhaps they willingly became a sort of cyborg by performing modifications on themselves. Regarding Final Revenge being Dummy's big brother, Final Revenge probably tried to avenge their little brother Dummy since we did kill them. According to ZB, there will be some stuff to explain lore in general in the final update, so watch out for that. That might be all the main layers, but there's still some things I want to talk about. There are many topics that either just weren't good enough for the main iceberg, good topics that would fit the first part of the iceberg more, or the first 3 layers, topics that have arisen from new information regarding old topics, topics from my old UUG iceberg which I haven't covered, and topics that I just don't think deserve a spot on the main iceberg. So don't leave yet, for this iceberg is far from over. There's a kind of recent bug that I assume has arisen from the fact that the game has been left mostly untouched for so long. It's not too important, but the battle door for Cat Battle now shows up as a blue rectangle. Usually clicking the cat face would make the door appear, but it now shows up immediately after the cat face spawns. You'll still need to click the cat face to access the fight, but it can be confusing for new players who are unaware of this. In UUG's lore, Zans is the weakest entity. That's their sole purpose. The area contest is a deconfirmed contest that was going to take place on an unknown date. Basically, you would have to put your own little twist on a currently existing area in the game. You would be required to come up with your own ideas for exactly how it would look and what would be in it. Similar to some other contests, the winner would get their area added into the game along with receiving a buffed version of one of the items there. According to Space, ZB has considered doing it, so there is still a slim chance of this happening. I believe this refers to the bug that you could have done by either using Shadow Shell's ability then quickly entering a fight, or using Shadow Shell's ability then quickly re-equipping it. This would allow you to stay in the Shadow Shell state, which in turn would allow you to dodge attacks very easily due to the speed the ability gives you. Cracked Insanity refers to the now fixed bug that allowed you to obtain a seemingly infinite amount of HP from Insanity Soul. I guess ZB forgot to add a cap. Mes amis means my friends in French. This refers to the role in the UUG Discord servers infamous for making some people believe the people that had the role were moderators. This was and is most definitely not the case, as they are just friends of ZB. It has gotten so bad to the point where quote unquote not moderator was added to the role. The story of Buff Spancer was a non-canon story made by Airanex in the old UUG Discord server. At first, it most likely existed as a sort of joke, but it gradually got its own story. I don't have any screenshots of the actual story. There used to be no damage boost cap. That's literally it. If you didn't know, certain enemies in certain raids actually have their HP increased based on how many people enter it. A Mangla boss refers to a joke made by none other than Dolphic. I frequently ask ZB when he's going to add it, but he usually says something like, "It's fake." At one point, I asked MJ if it was real and he said yes. This led me to ask ZB about it once more and he said, "A Mangla boss is the final boss." It's real, guys. A Mangla boss is real. You used to be able to cheese Tau by either using party key or saying the Rancer code in chat. This would allow you to avoid all attacks since you would be so far from the arena. However, you only should have used it on the phases that didn't require you to press the act or fight buttons or in the final phase, since you would end up being soft locked. If it wasn't obvious enough, this bug has since been patched. Yoba cheese refers to the cheese you can do by just sitting in either the bottom left or bottom right corners in Yoba Bob's arena. Because Yoba Bob can't detect you that far, they can't attack you at all. You can also do this with Ronald. There was a time where ZB became an Amongla during one of my Sus Day events in my old Discord server. He was Tricky the Sus. Rancer Soul and Ultra Ugly Soul used to make your weapon go bye-bye after using the ability. Because Rancer Soul also worked on other people, this would affect them too. It would only happen if you either unequip your weapon or if you're not holding your weapon beforehand. I only have footage of the bug happening with Rancer Soul. You can actually still teleport to any of the anniversary event bosses, but instead of taking you to the event room, they take you to where the event used to stay. Because the only things that were actually removed were the floor and walls, you'll just end up falling into the void. You may have noticed that the game passes were taken off sale. This was because ZB didn't have motivation to work on the game. However, he most likely does have more motivation now since we've received many new leaks. The normal game passes will come back in the final update except for gold grind. You used to be able to combine multiple fights by utilizing a glitch. Back when you could say the Rancer code in chat, you would also be able to say it in a fight and be teleported there. You would have to then go into Evil Rancer and cancel so you could re-enable your menu. Then just go to any boss you'd like to combine and repeat the process. You may have also been able to do this with the key items. Here are 3 examples of the glitch being utilized. There's a glitch where you can obtain a permanent jump boost by jumping and double jumping with any of the double jump armors, then equipping a different armor midair. This has not been fixed. There's a strange empty room behind Tails in the Tails Shrine. It doesn't look like there's anything in there even if we item clip inside. I'm not sure what this is for. There's a strange empty room behind one of the walls in the Parui's fight. I'm also not sure what this is for. In UUG PvP, you can access the troll room by clicking on Angry Shop's torso. This is a reference to how it also teleports you to their boss location in the main game. As soon as the quest update arrived, I immediately checked to see if I could click on Angry Quest for an Easter egg. Sadly, this doesn't do anything. It'd be pretty cool if you could actually click their torso like Angry Shop. Hack Eggs is a deconfirmed custom fight that would have made it into the game as a hack version of the Eggs. If you know Hack Team from UTMM, it's basically that combined with the pre-existing fight in UUG, the Eggs. For some more context, the Eggs is actually someone's custom boss and the same person received yet another custom boss which would have been the Hack Eggs. It wasn't added into the game since CB didn't want to add them. This is related to the boss contest. U was the creation and submission by Gohan Gamer 123456. It won the Spancer contest and placed 4th in the boss contest. Anyway, it received lots of backlash because of the fact that it was heavily unbalanced. The first phase would have been a survival that lasts 15 minutes. Yes, this is just phase 1. According to Space, many people thought it was a good idea, which resulted in many upvotes. This eventually overtook Space's submission, Noob. Fake items are items created through editing made to look real. They can also be items that just don't exist. There's a few bad examples of these in my UUG raid server, but one good example is this Scream item I made through editing. Another example is Red's Cutlass. This is an actual item made by Small Mojo, but it's not part of UUG. Long story short, Small wanted it to get added and CB said yes, but he later decided not to. This is a sort of add-on to the layer 2 topic, B not saving. Basically, the bug itself wasn't actually fixed. The original B armor was renamed to Old B and it was replaced with a new B armor. The old B armor can no longer be bought or obtained. You can actually vandalize with Omega Core by using it and either swiftly equipping a different soul or re-equipping it. This will allow the bones and exclamation marks it produces to stay forever. You can also do this with other items like Master Puzzler and Spade Zone, though you can no longer do it with either of the Night Souls. Anyway, this also refers to the event that occurred during the 7th of March 2023 Pacific Standard Time. Basically, Miles, Sonic, Jax, and some others along with myself vandalized the entire map. Yes, that's right, the entire map. No area was safe from this, not even the event room. Just take a minute to admire the view. If you ever wanted to know what the Party Snens fight looked like, here it is. Do note that this footage was taken recently from the test place. As of now, there is no known footage of the original Party Snens in the actual 1K visits event. The Tails codes used to be located in one of Antifrog's trees, but they have since been changed. Now it says this. The first thing that came to mind is a YouTube link, so I tried that. And what do you know? I was correct. Let's watch the entire video. As you may have noticed, there's wingdings we have to decode. With the help of a wingdings translator, brute force, and my community, I was able to sort of make out what it said. However, due to the nature of the wingdings shown in the video, you have to brute force most of the symbols there, so I still might be incorrect. The first wingding shown may translate to, "You are coming with her forever." I still feel like I'm wrong since entering this code in UUG doesn't do anything. The second wingdings are a lot harder to brute force, but I believe it says, "Think." Anyway, that's all I was able to find. There are actually still remains of MJ in the game. In the main game, it's still in Midas Crown's description. It also still shows up as MJ's soul in the admin panel. C minigun refers to the overpowered glitch you could have done by either using unnerfed Cube Buster or unnerfed Witch's Hat. They both had no cap to attack speed, so you were able to achieve this. There was a series of 3 giveaways hosted by Miles in the UUG Discord server. 1 in giveaways, 1 in cooler giveaways, and 1 in booster giveaways. These were all pretty sus. In the old UUG Discord server, there was a Minecraft survival multiplayer server for UUG. There were 2 clans, the Supreme Trolls Division and the Beacon Town Council. There was also a giant spancer monument at spawn. Anyway, the server actually ended up closing due to some drama and griefing within the server. However, after around a year, a new SMP server was created on February 25, 2023. This marks the start of a new era. There is only one known screenshot of a 2% master puzzler. It was supposed to say 3%, but it said 2% due to a now fixed bug. There used to be a Jandy contest which lasted for quite some time. You had to beat Jandy legitimately with an acceptable amount of lag with video proof. Error ended up beating this challenge and consequently won the contest. This is why he has his own custom Jandy Scythe the Unspeakable, which is arguably the current best weapon, along with having the best DPS in the game. Technically, Airanex was the first person to complete this, but they used unnerfed Ace of Gold. This was controversial since it made the challenge a lot easier, so it didn't end up winning. You can actually still access Watcher's Temple and Watcher, boss from the April Fool's event. The temple has been renamed to Strange Temple and is now located behind King Noob. ZB once mentioned the true reawakened Truer Tails doll sword in the old UUG Discord server. This is probably just a joke, but who knows. Egg hot dog is a food infamous for how expensive it is. It's located at the highest point in the Ugly Realm and it can be bought for 100 billion gold. By buying it, you also receive a badge. The food itself is trash as it only heals 2 HP with a cooldown of half a second. And that's gonna be about it for this video. And that's gonna be about it for this video. And that's gonna be about it for the. And that's gonna be about it. And that's gonna be about it. And that's gonna be about. And that's gonna be. And that's gonna be. And that's gonna. And that's gonna. And that's. And. I had a dream I was playing Undertale and I got to the snowy area and it was mostly the same, but Papyrus was replaced with this new character. Sprite was a high contrast black and white photorealistic eyeball, roughly twice as big as Papyrus, and looking directly at the viewer. Whenever spoke, the music completely cut out and instead of text, it was an ominous red glow emanating from the text box. The existence of a very particular secret in UUG is so covert that only 2 people know about it, not including ZB. It has never been found and is by far UUG's biggest mystery. With the origins out of the way, I present to you the most obscure subject on the iceberg, and in UUG, Prune Cell. Let's go back to around late January to early February of 2022, half a month before the anniversary event update. This is when Prune Cell was silently added to the game. This means more than a year has passed since the addition of the secret. In spite of this, nobody has caught wind of this even now, excluding MJ and I. Even exploiters would have a hard time finding it according to ZB. Apparently, MJ is the reason this boss exists, but that's not too important. Yes, Prune Cell is actually a boss, but it doesn't appear on the boss chart at all. I tried searching everywhere with everything activated. As expected, this didn't get me anywhere. If we'd like to find this boss, we're gonna have to conduct a deep search on the entire game. ZB says this is technically an in-game boss and is handled a little differently on the server, but I'm not sure how much that helps. If by the time you're watching this video Pruncell still hasn't been found, I ask that you please help search for this as it is the magnum opus of secrets. Well, that's about all the important info I was given. I'd like to expand on this topic, but there's nothing much else to say. And that's gonna be about it for this video, for real this time. This was my biggest project yet as I put a tremendous amount of time, effort, and passion into this. This wouldn't have been possible without many people who I'll be showing on the screen shortly. This has taken me over 200 hours to edit over the course of well over a year, so I would really appreciate it if you could support me by hitting those subscribe and like buttons. Well, this covers the second part of the berg and thus completes the entire UUG Iceberg. We've come a long way. That's all from me. So bye and thank you so much for watching.
Check it. Hey, people. Pumping up the meter. Roll me a ringleader, mad party bleeder. Make this with a storm. Lead after leader. Hey, can you dig it? I come alive, y'all give me what you got. Back up, come stick up, pump your fist up. You take the shadow, no buck shots, a bus slip up. Morning like a kid, to make it feel alright. Move it up all night, body rock, show me what you got. Let Rob break the slip up. Morning like a kid, to make it feel alright. Move it up all night, body rock, show me what you got. Let Rob break the Check it it.
Also, sorry if you can hear some ticking because I have a pretty loud cock. Wait, shit, I meant, damn, what the fuck? Alright, motherfucker. Yeah, so I tried.